the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus entered the temple area and proceeded to drive out those who were selling things, saying to them, "It is written, 'My house shall be a house of prayer,' but you have made it a den of thieves." And every day he was teaching in the temple area. The chief priests, the scribes, and the leaders of the people, meanwhile, were seeking to put him to death. But they could find no way to accomplish their purpose, because all the people were hanging on his words. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
A couple of things about today. Today is the feast of Saint Cecilia. She is the patron saint of musicians. Saint Cecilia is also one of the reasons why she's well known is because she's the first incorruptible that we're aware of, right? So the saints who die and basically their body or parts of their bodies do not decay. Right? And there's some really interesting incorruptibles out there. There's you can see St. Catherine of Siena's head, for example, in Italy, and it's literally just her head on display. So kind of interesting. But St. Cecilia was the first incorruptible. There's a church named after her in Rome. She was an early church martyr, and in the 1500s they basically dug up her crypt, and she was incorruptible. So now in the church today you can't see her tomb, but you can see the sculpture that was made, right, mimicking her incorrupt stature 1,000 years after her death. She's also considered the patron saint of musicians because when she was martyred, when she was killed, right after she died, people said they could hear music. Right? And so it was like the music of her arrival to heaven. Today we also hear from chapter 10 from the book of Revelation, and we hear about this scroll, right, that John is told to eat. It's kind of similar to something that happened in the Old Testament. The prophet Ezekiel, likewise, he was given a scroll to eat. And it says that the scroll was sweet to the taste of his mouth, but then when he started digesting, right, it was sour, it was painful. The same thing happens here with John, when he gets this message that he's supposed to eat, and then when he swallows it, it gives him a stomachache, right? Because it's a message of judgment. It's kind of interesting. I was reading about the Dominican spirituality. Recently, I've been reading this book that one of my priest friends gave me, and one of the things that the Dominicans talk about is that when it comes to studying the scriptures, they are reminded of this image of John and of Ezekiel of eating the scroll. That in some ways the scroll that John is given, it represents all of God's words. The good stuff, the bad. Right? The good news and the bad news. And you eat it. And so the Dominicans, right, one of the philosophies they have in terms of their spiritual lives is devotion to the Word of God, to the Scriptures. They are told to eat the book, devour it, let it become part of you. Know that ever since going to the seminary and then becoming a priest, one of the things we're supposed to do is we're supposed to pray the liturgy of the hours every day. And so morning prayer, evening prayer, and the like. And I remember when I started doing that, it seemed a little bit repetitive. Right? You're praying the Psalms day after day. Right? But over the course of time, right, those Psalms and the words of the Psalms, they begin to, you think of them regularly. Right? There are things that will come up throughout the day and you'll be reminded of the words of one of the Psalms. And to me, that's a beautiful image of how I've eaten the Word. So much so that the Psalms become a natural part of my thinking. And that's a good goal for any of us when it comes to the Bible, when it comes to the Word of God, of not just studying it, but really letting it become a part of you. The words of the Scriptures. That's something